And we're on air. Welcome to the Young Greens online hustings. I'm your host, Molly Arthurs. I'm very ill right now. I apologise for my voice. And we are going to wait for more viewers before we start, otherwise there's no point doing it. So, talk amongst yourselves.
Has everyone done like that pre-fictional characters thing yet? It can be way too long to think about that.
I can't think of mine. Like, I think I'm just one giant fictional character that embodies thousands and thousands of books that I've absorbed while sitting on long car journeys when I was little. So,
is there like any kind of like a character that's actually a library? That'd be pretty cool. Maybe you could like invent your own fictional character.
maybe I'm the TARDIS because I can eat a lot.
And there's a character in Doctor Who that was like the guardian of the library called Cal. So, okay, we actually have viewers now. So, we're going to go in alphabetical order first. Can Hannah please give me a 1-minute introduction into who you are?
Hello, my name's Hannah. I've been co-chair of the Young Greens since November last year. I'm really pleased to be restanding actually. It's not quite been a year because the AGM's earlier this year. So I guess I've been co-chair of the Young Greens for 11 months by the time the campaign's over. But it's been really good. I've learned a lot. One of the main things that I've learned is about how hard the role is, but also about how much you can achieve in that role and what's really realistic to achieve. When I took over, there were a few things that I wanted to change. Last year I stood on a platform of more support, regional events and training. I think I've done quite a good job so far of fulfilling those things to some degree. However, I still think that there's work to be done. So I'd really like to continue over the next year. Please, please, please consider me for your first preference, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Exactly a minute, well done. Okay, Joe, how about you give us an introduction? I just had to do the alphabet in my head, that's really embarrassing. I feel like Joe is frozen.
Oh, am I frozen? Sorry, it's internet. It's
back.
Exeter Port.
Oh my God, again.
Internet. Involved in the Green Party for 2 years now. I'm standing to be co-chair of the Young Greens because I want to empower local groups to get more involved in their local communities by providing electronic resource packs. I want to ensure that liberation groups are at the heart of everything we do. So that's, you know, having specific fundraising campaigns that support their work. And I want to help local groups that face difficult situations, so in rural areas. And I think we can do a lot more to be more inclusive of new members of the Young Greens. So feel free to ask me any questions, although I apologise if my internet is rubbish.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And Sam.
Hi, my name is Sam and I want to be your co-chair. I want to push for 3 things to happen over this next year: for more accessibility, for better communication, and for more visibility of the NEC and the Young Greens as a whole. I think that the Young Greens are pretty much the only voice for youth in this country at the moment, to fighting austerity politics, to actually talking about the issues that really matter. And I want us to activate that within ourselves and give all the energy we have on making post-Brexit Britain a wonderful place to be. Let's fight for our rights and let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do questions that have been submitted, and you will all have 1 minute for each question. Let me just set a timer for that one. Okay, the first question is, what experience do you have? And we will go with Joe first.
So as I said, I've been involved in the Green Party for 2 years, and I was elected as publicity officer for the University Green Party Society. And as part of that, I organised one of the Green Party's largest Exeter and from around the southwest come along. I've also been heavily involved with Southwest Young Greens, and I've helped to organise Greens, and I set up a new local group in Exeter Young Greens, which is designed to represent young people who aren't in education or aren't in higher education, and so that's most of what I've been doing for the last year.
Okay, thank you. And Hannah, we will go to next.
Yeah, I guess the biggest piece of experience that I've got is that I've been co-chair since last year. But even if you take that away, I'm quite an experienced candidate. I've been a member of the Green Party for nearly 4 years. In that time, I got stuck in quite quickly. I set up my local group, Liverpool Young Greens. Following on from that, then helped set up Young Greens North, of which I was co-convener of for 2 years. And in that process, set up the Young Greens Senate as well. So I've got a real experience on, you know, each sort of level in that way. I was also involved in organising the 2 Young Greens Women Activist Days, so I've also got experience in liberation groups. Aside from that, I work in marketing, which means I've got a lot of website experience, event experience, and also like graphic design experience, and that's some of the stuff that I've actually been doing over the last year for the Young Greens. Sometimes it feels like I don't know when my job stops and the Young Greens starts. And I'm also a strong public speaker. I was involved in debating at university, which means I can be a great spokesperson for the Young Greens.
Okay, thank you. And Sam?
So I've been your elections and international officer on NEC, and during this time I've been improving links with our international partners, setting up an international subcommittee, helping out on Cardiff and Bristol Action Days, and also setting up a GPEX Q&A. And I think my time on NEC has actually helped me understand the structures of the Young Greens, how they work and how they interact. I've been a member of the Green Party for nearly 5 years. I've helped found the Wales Young Greens. I've also worked on several subcommittees within the Young Greens, and I've been doing a lot of international work with FYEG on working groups. So that's the Federation of Young European Greens, on working groups, climate change protests, and also on strategic planning committees as well. So I feel all of these contribute to my understanding of how the Young Greens works, not only nationally, but internationally as well.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And we will stay with you and ask how you plan to, in a practical sense, support local Young Greens groups.
I think the most important thing we need to do to allow individual members and also local groups to interact is to create a clear channel of communication for members and local parties to get in touch with NEC. Now, the way I want to do this is through request forms. So if you want an event promoted, a candidate for an election promoted, or just need assistance from one of us, you can fill out a form and it will go directly to the team to work together in solving your query. I also think it's important, being someone who's been in Wales, to actually ensure that materials are in Welsh. Over the past year, we've very much been fighting for events in Wales and also to have Welsh language literature. And this is something I think is important to focus on, as well as responding to local government and Welsh government events as an NEC as a whole as well.
Thank you. And now, Hannah.
Just going to grab my timer. Sorry, I wasn't expecting you to come to me. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of things that practically we can do to support sort of Young Greens groups, not just on a local level, but also within the structures, because there's quite a few ways with local, regional Green students, liberation groups that we could do to deserve a bit more support. I think one thing I'll say is that one of the main ways that we used to support these groups was through the use of a Young Greens coordinator who had the time to keep contacting these groups and making sure they've got what they need. One of the biggest things, however, I've undertaken this year is freshers packs, from all of the design of the materials to the collating information and then passing it off to the office. What I'd like to do over the next year is provide templates for events. So, for example, it's something myself and Green students are working on at the moment. We've got the NUS demo coming up, so we're looking at how we can promote it and how we can get local groups on board. And having templates for an event they can run about the demo so that their members can get engaged is one key thing. I've also been working on groups guides. They're not quite finished, but they will be towards the end of the year. And I think providing different guides in terms of like under 18s and liberation groups is better than just the one groups guide that we've got at the moment. So I hope to complete that.
Okay, thank you. And Joe, finally.
So for me, one of them is by having good links within their community, and I want to enable groups to be able to do that. So I want to provide an electronic resource pack that has information on setting up community initiatives and getting involved with community projects. It's a good way of reaching out to new members. I want to develop a really good personal basis with individual groups, so wherever possible, Skyping and even visiting it as much as possible. I also think that it's so important that local groups air the issues that they feel are important in their local area. So it would be good to get input on what campaigns people feel are pertinent to their local area. And I think the main thing is just making being accessible and welcoming to new people, so that they can contact me as a person and not feel intimidated by that when doing so.
Thank you, Joe. Just a quick note to say that to submit questions, you can tweet #YoungGreenHustings, YG Hustings, sorry, or email me at spcchair@younggreens.org.uk. And now we will go back to Joe and ask how you plan to get more Young Greens involved on local councils.
The main way to get really involved in local councils is, from my experience in Exeter anyway, is having a really good relationship with your local party. And this obviously isn't always possible because many Young Greens have to deal with hostile local parties. So there is a mediating role where I think Young Greens nationally can provide resources to local. And what we've done is we've constitutionally introduced to Exeter Green Party a measure which ensures that 25% of our candidates must be Greens. Encouragement. So practice like that. I think also, the elections training days, they've been really fantastic. So I think as much of that as possible, and as much around the country as possible, because some of our best areas for the Green Party are in some of the most inaccessible areas. So we have to make sure that the training and information is available there as well.
Okay, thank you. And Sam?
So, being your elections officer for the past year, I've helped organise action days in Cardiff and Bristol, and also helped to organise and run the councillor training event we held in Leeds. I think it's important that we see these continue. And I also would like to create training toolkits so that we could allow these events to become accessible, and also set bi-monthly training for regions to hold. So we create a resource and then they all have access to it and can simultaneously hold this. I would also like to have a Young Green summer camp in which we can work and encourage people to be involved as parish councillors, as local councillors, and also to potentially run for MPs as well. It's vitally important that we have Young Greens on councils and parish councils across the country. We need youth representation, and that is something the NEC must be helping with.
Okay, thanks, Sam. And finally, Hannah.
Yeah, so this was something that I addressed in my statement. One of the things that I've recognised is that there's a lot of operational work that you have to do as co-chair. But once you achieve all that operational work and do things like, implementing the guides and things like that I've been working on, then you can do these big projects. And I think really getting Young Greens elected is the end goal for me. That's why I worked on the Get Elected training day this year. I did work with Sam and Louise on that to ensure that we can. The idea is that's then a template that local and regional groups can do. Because the thing is it's such a big task to ensure that we get more Young Greens elected. So we do need to support. We do need the support to sort of flow through the structures. One thing I'll also say I think we can work a lot closer with the Association of Green Councillors. I went along to the Association of Green Councillors thing a couple of years ago, and it was really eye-opening how little Young Greens were there. I also think there is a lot more we can do about pushing Young Greens involvement. So one thing when I was in Liverpool is that I got implemented a welcome on the email that people get when they join from the membership site that just says, if you're a Young Green, contact this person, and just being aware that those people are Young Greens, so that you can then push through. Be really positive.
Okay, thank you so much. Hannah, we will stay with you. As you know, being a Young Green co-chair, part of the role is to have a seat on GPEX, which is the Green Party Executive Committee. If you were re-elected this year, what would you push for on GPEX?
Yeah, so people who are at conference or people who've read the reports of the finance coordinator are probably quite aware that we've not necessarily had that much that we could do on GPEX this year because of the financial position that the party's in. However, one thing that we did ensure, myself and other people on GPEX, was that when we do have money back, there's a couple of priorities. One of those has already been achieved, and that was about upgrading our systems. The second of those is E&D training for local parties, regional parties, so they're more clued up on liberation issues. And then the third of those is Young Green staff. I want to continue pushing for this. It's a really integral thing, and you can really see the difference from this year to last year about how much having that staff member really does help the Young Greens function on an operational level. I don't shut up about Young Green staff. I'm not going to ever shut up about Young Green staff until they come back, because I really, really do think it's so important, and that's one key thing that we can achieve on GPEX, and I hope that we can over the next year.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. And Joe.
So one of the things that I really want to push for is to bring the knowledge and experience that local groups have and take best practice from them to GPEX meetings. So I think it's, there are some really fantastic local groups that have really successful fundraising methods that could be done on a much larger scale. I think I absolutely agree. We really need to push for Young Green staff. And I also think that because for example, in terms of, and thanks to the positive attitude of the local party, we are well financially supported, but this isn't reflected throughout the country. So I think it's working with GPEX to ensure that actually the Young Greens have proper funding that's due, because when we do get new Young Greens members, we need to have the resources to be able to support their journey through. So I think, again, finance is a really important issue for me.
Okay, thank you. And back to Sam.
So having a seat on GPEX means that we are in that amazing position to be able to spread our best practice in governance, in campaigning, and also with media coverage as well, particularly when it comes to liberation groups and opening a dialogue about oppression within the party. I think it's also important that we could have this opportunity to work on coordinating national campaigns to ensure that there is actually a Young Greens voice whenever these campaigns are worked on and released. Alongside suggestions which have already been made talking about a staff member, I think it's important to open discussions for Young Greens to actually receive a share of the membership fee, as currently we don't actually receive any of that money. But alongside this, I want to encourage more Young Greens to run for GPEX and more Young Greens to run for GPRC, so that we have a wider youth representation within the top level of the party who are able to fight for the youth perspective and to spread the great vision and goals that we have.
Okay, thank you. And we will go to Joe first on this next one. If you were to be elected co-chair of the Young Greens, where do you see the party being, well, the Young Greens being in 1 year?
So I think that we're a really exciting, huge membership, and I think we've done a really good job of becoming a really large youth wing of the Green Party. But I think what we now have the potential to do is to be a radical force for social and environmental change, so that the Young Greens is distinctive in its own right. I want everywhere where there is a Young Greens present for communities to be better for it. And I also really think that we need to see lots of new local groups developing in areas which, you've got less good public transport, more inaccessible areas that aren't as traditionally well supported. And I think we need to work really hard for that. But I think it's possible that we have new groups in the next year with that extra support.
Okay, thank you. And Sam?
Internally, I want to see improvement in accessibility to the Young Greens, communication from NEC to the rest of the Young Greens, and also visibility of the Young Greens as a whole. The NEC in itself should be visible and accessible, and I want us to communicate through new ways such as podcasts or videos as well. It's important to me that Young Greens are the real voice for young people in England and Wales. And my vision, utilising direct action, is to see us out on the streets, at festivals online, more active, fighting climate change, pushing for liberation group rights, fighting tuition fee rises and unfair rentals. We are the architects of post-Brexit Britain, so let's work together and build a future for each other tomorrow.
Thank you. And Hannah?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm not going to stop shutting up about Young Green stuff. Really, that was one of the key drivers for me restanding, because I felt like the Young Greens could be in a better situation to then hand it off. Firstly, financially, although actually having just received our accounts, the results of fundraising at conference and other initiatives that we've done over the past few months have really boosted that. So hopefully this year's NEC won't be handing over in a similar financial situation that we got handed over, and the staff member. I'd also, some of the stuff I said about local groups I think is really important. At the moment, it's quite clear that a lot of local groups are just a name and they're not anything more than that. And I think we can do a lot more to ensure that young people are pushing their voices throughout the party and throughout England and Wales. So I really like to see what we can do more to support those groups. And I've had a few ideas in my statement, and as I've said in the Hustings, that I think will really achieve that.
Okay, thank you. And we have had a question on Twitter from Jack Govier, which is, what do you think is the core goal of the Young Greens? And we will go to Hannah.
I think the core goal of the Young Greens is to ensure that young people have a strong future. It's some of the taglines that we've been going with recently about protecting our future, standing up for our future, particularly in post-Brexit Britain. But really, that is for me. I want a future where, you know, there's clean air. I want a future where, you know, you can actually get the support you need from your government. I want a future where, you know, education is strong, and it's not about, you know, how intelligent you were at 11 or how rich your parents were, and it's not about, you know, if you don't have that support, financial support from your parents, how that you just can't achieve, because that's not the society I want to live in. And that's why I joined the Green Party. I joined the Green Party because we've really got those policies and we can really do that. And by having a strong Young Greens who are canvassing and being candidates and pushing that message out, campaigning on issue-based campaigns, then we really can ensure that the world is better off. And I think that's what our focus is.
Thank you, Hannah. And Sam?
I think the purpose of the Young Greens is twofold. Facing outwards, we are the only true voice for youth representation and fighting austerity. We are the only voice pushing for better education, for better housing, for better job protection rights as well. But internally, what's it actually mean in our relationship between the Young Greens and the wider Green Party? We want to be the wing that responds to all issues from the youth perspective. So anytime an issue is raised nationally, whether it's to do with progressive alliances, whether it's to do with how Britain should be shaped post-Brexit, it's vitally important that we fight to have our voice heard in this conversation. We also need to be a bit of a glue, connecting Young Greens to their local parties as well, and play more of a role in initiating discussions between younger members and older members as well, and seeing how they can actually work together to make their communities better, to make the nation a better place, and to build a better tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And Joe?
I think for me, the Young Greens role is it facilitates young people actually having a future in the political future, because of the situation we've got at the moment is that young people are chronically underrepresented in so many ways, whether that's voting turnout or whether that's, you know, representation in Parliament, in local councils. And what we really need to ensure, and what our role is to ensure that young people's voices and their views are actually carried out, both within the Green Party, so that's things like getting young people, Young Greens to turn up to conference and vote, propose motions, but also that's getting young people elected onto councils, getting them involved in local community projects, and ensuring that, you know, wherever you go, there will be a Young Green voice that stands up for the rights of young people, and not silenced by currently the more dominant privileged groups in society.
Okay, thank you. We will go to Sam. What do you understand safe spaces to be, and what is your opinion on them?
So safe spaces are an incredibly vital policy for us within the Young Greens. I understand safe spaces to be a way for us to allow everyone to access an event and to feel comfortable within those situations at all times. I think it's vitally important that we enforce this at events as well, to allow spaces for people to be present within and not feel that they're in an environment which may be oppressing them. And I think it's vitally important that we are constantly reviewing our safe space policy with guidance from liberation groups, because I believe when it comes to liberation issues, they know best and should be guiding our responses to this and helping us shape and continue a stronger safe space policy.
Okay, thank you. And Hannah?
Yeah, safe space isn't about stopping people from having their opinions. Safe spaces is about ensuring that people are protected and ensuring that people aren't having their rights and their being attacked when they're in young green spaces. I supported them, the Safe Spaces policy, both going through the Young Greens and then again going through the Green Party when we put it through conference, because I think it's really integral. One thing I will say is that what was amazing about the Young Greens Women Activist Days was that just having a women's space where there were no men involved was so great, and it got so many Young Greens active just as a result of those 2 training days. Some of those are actually now running for NEC. So I just think that they're such a great thing and we need to push forward on them. So I would never support anyone saying we should get rid of them. And it always makes me really sad when people moan about free speech, because, you know, it's not a thing when you compare people's basic rights and how they can be attacked.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. And to Joe.
I think safe spaces are so fundamentally important. An important part of what safe spaces actually mean, but essentially everyone should have the right to have their voice heard, but some people are more privileged than others and get their voices heard more often. I know that I'm part of a very privileged section of society, so it's so fundamentally important that people from oppressed groups, marginalized people, are able to air their views in a space with other people who share similar experiences. And this has loads of practically important reasons. People who don't want to be outed for their sexuality or gender or whatever part of their identity. And that means making sure that, you know, when we organize events, you know, we've got venues and locations that people can be separate and not have that fear of someone else not from that group intruding, even if that person has a best intention or is an ally. It's about keeping that space for that group that, you know, suffers from that form of oppression.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And we are going to have one last question. It is from Kat on Twitter, and they want to know how you will support liberation groups. We will go back to Joe first for this one.
I think that liberation groups are one of the most exciting parts of the Green Party and indeed the Young Greens. And so my ambition is to ensure that the representation at all levels of the Young Greens. So I want to work with local Young Greens groups, regional Young Greens groups to develop and ensure that posts on their committees. I also want to improve the way that fundraising is done for liberation groups. So I want to really give them proper support. So that means that specific crowdfunders or fundraising initiatives that are decided by the liberation group in question, and they can design it and the Young Greens will publicize it so that their needs are met and properly funded, because that's something that is not, you know, is much more difficult to do at the moment.
Thank you, Joe. And over to Hannah.
Hello. One of the things that I talked about in my statement was about how the Young Greens really do work in silos at the moment. And I think there's so much more that we can do to work together when we're in groups and structures. So one thing I think would be really integral for liberation groups is firstly ensuring that they do have a key place in that structure and that their voice is being listened to on a level. I did introduce a motion to convention last year to get them put on the Senate. That didn't pass, but I hope that we've done a reasonable job in trying to ensure them, include them in decision making on NEC this year. One of the things that we're doing, candidates will know, is that Tom and I came up with the idea of having a residential in November for all new elected committees to come together and build our plan and our budget for the next year as a group. We're calling it the TAP, because it's a team action plan, and I think that will do a good thing to ensure liberation groups are included. I do agree with Joe about finances. We've been in a really tough position this year, but I think that having a structure about how our finances are divvied out is quite important, because we don't currently have that beyond the society pot that no one knows about and no one uses.
Okay, thank you, and over to Sam.
I think the most important thing to say, first of all, is that the Liberations know best when it comes to liberation issues. And we need to ensure that diverse communities are very much at the heart of our campaigns and our elections as well. So we need to empower liberation groups to drive events, to be the voices that actually respond to news and media, and to also ensure there's representation as well within the bodies of the Young Greens and the wider Green Party, as well as running for elections. In terms of finances, I think it's incredibly important that we explore a variety of options, including applying to various European funds, such as the Heinrich Böll Foundation, or also the Green European Fund, to work transnationally on liberation issues. And we can also apply for international funds from the Westminster Foundation as well. So I think it's important that we centre the liberation groups in liberation issues and have them responding directly to the events which occur.
And thank you, Sam. Okay, so we're just going to wait for a couple more of our non-portfolio members to join the chat. Thank you very much to Hannah, Joe and Sam for being with us. Just a reminder that anyone who has questions can tweet #YGHustings or email me at spcchair@younggreens.org.uk. Oh, we've got quite a few non-portfolio members. I was going to tell a feminist joke, but I don't need to now. Okay, let me just bring everyone back in, because I hid some people. Okay, so welcome to our non-portfolio candidates. Just to go over some housekeeping, you have a minute to answer every question. I am timing them whenever I remember to press start on the timer, so please don't go over because you will be cut off. We're taking questions over Twitter and email, and please try to mute your microphone and shut off your camera when you are not answering a question, as it makes things run a bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone a minute to introduce themselves, starting with Aaron.
Hi guys, my name's Aaron. I'm currently the treasurer for the Young Greens, and I'm re-standing for election this year. And I'm from the actual Green Party.
Thank you, Aaron. And then we will go to Hannah. Hannah. We will go back to Hannah in a minute, and we'll go to Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I am currently on the NEC for the Young Greens. I'm the social media officer. I'm also on the Southwest Young Greens committee, and I'm standing for re-election this time round. I'm really excited.
Thank you. And is Hannah ready now? Apparently not. Okay, Lyndon.
Lyndon, I'm standing to be one of the non-portfolio officers. Yeah, and I'm currently living in Norfolk, and I'm moving to Essex next year, and I'm on the Young Greens committee at the University of Essex.
Okay, thank you, Lyndon. Hannah? Yay, we've got Hannah. Hannah, you are muted. Two seconds.
Hi, I'm in, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Hiya, cool. So hi, I'm Hannah. I'm 26. I'm from Broughton in North Lincolnshire. Lived in Middlesbrough for 7 years, went to university there. Basically, I'm planning for NEC now because I've been a member of the Greens for about 2 years. Following me working at the Student Union, I was vice president of the Student Union for 2 years. Became a Green after that. Founded Teesside University Green Party and Middlesbrough Green Party with about 3 people. In about 2 years, we grew to about 20 members. uniting with the Labour Party Society. We had like a real lefty group on campus, which was really good. Saw lots of increased activism on campus, which we've never seen before. It's a little bit about me. I was a parliamentary candidate in the UK general election in Middlesbrough, the first time for a Green candidate to stand in that area. Came fourth, achieving 4.3% of the vote, beating the Lib Dem, which was quite exciting. And since leaving Middlesbrough, obviously my aim is to become more involved with the Green Party on a national level. I've been involved with the 30 under 30 event subcommittee, organising Young Greens Convention, obviously now standing for NEC to prove my commitment, really.
Okay, thank you, Hannah, and we'll go to Paul.
This works. Hello. Hi. Oh,
You're working.
I'm working. Yay. Right. Cool. Yeah, hi. My name is Paul. I'm an actor. I'm from South London. I've also been a Green Party member for a couple of years now, and I'm on the trade union group. So I'm the membership officer of the trade union group at the moment. I also do a bit of social media stuff with Lauren actually as well on the subcommittee for the sort of digital media strategy stuff. So I'm very involved in that side of things with the Greens. I'm also big on unions, so I'm involved in a lot of trade unions, involved in my union for acting, which is Equity. I'm also involved in PCS, which is where I work at South Bank Centre between acting jobs, which is why I'm wearing this ridiculous pink shirt, because I'm currently at work as well, so that's always fun. And yes, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and finally to Tarek.
Hello everyone, my name is Tariq. I'm 26 years old. I'm from East Lancashire. I'm the East Lancashire Young Greens coordinator. I was also on SPC until a few weeks ago where I had to leave because I'm running for this position. I'm also on 30 under 30, and I feel like all the stuff I've learned over the past years on the different committees will allow me to do well in this role.
Thank you, Tarek. Okay, our first question is from Chris Jarvis on Twitter, and he wants to know what experience everyone has of running grassroots campaigns. Aaron, you are treasurer, so you don't have to answer this one unless you want to. And we will go to Lauren first.
What experience do I have? So I actually started out before becoming involved in the NEC. I started off in my school. I founded a eco council. I was involved in school council. I'm now our representative on our local youth council. So in terms of campaigning there, I have quite strong grassroots campaigns. I'm social media officer, so I'm really involved online. Some people would say that that's not really grassroots, but I think it really influences grassroots campaigning. Yeah, that's probably enough.
Thank you, Lauren. We will go to Lyndon.
Yeah, so when I was at university, I was involved in a whole load of different campaigns on student issues in Aberystwyth. One example was campaigning for a night bus from the university campus to the town, which we had petitions for and stuff, and we eventually achieved using getting the university to fund it. In terms of election campaigns, I've been a local election candidate 4 times, and that's been everything from being a paper candidate to full-on campaigning to try to win.
Thank you, Lyndon, and we will go to Hannah. We've lost Hannah, apparently. Okay, we will go to Paul.
Cool. Yeah. So one of the campaigns I was involved in actually with the Young Greens a couple of years ago was in the run-up to the general election. We had the whole Generation Vote Green campaign, and I was there at the manifesto launch a couple of years ago, and also the voiceover for the video, which is on my Facebook page as well. I did that, so that was quite well viewed. So that was a useful little campaign tool that we used. And again, with my union stuff, I do a lot of stuff with Equity. So we're always, with our local branches, we're organising the marches going into whatever, marching around Manchester against the Tory party conference, stuff like that. I've been quite heavily involved in.
Thank you, and we have Hannah back. Hannah, do you need me to repeat the question? Okay, Hannah's frozen. Tarek.
Yeah, just repeat the question again, please.
Yeah, the question was, how have you been involved in grassroots campaigning?
Right, grassroots campaigning. So last year, actually it was this year. Earlier on this year, I helped our local East Lancashire candidate to canvass and campaign in his constituency. And while I was at university, in my last year, I got involved in secular politics, and I was responsible for getting people that weren't really interested in politics to engage with us on whatever our campaigns were.
Thank you. Do we have Hannah back? I don't think we do, so what I'm going to do is write down all of the questions that Hannah misses, and they can answer them when their technology is working. Okay. Let me find another question. What has been your biggest failure as an activist, and how have you learned from it? Okay, we will go to Aaron here.
Oh, my biggest failure as an activist. Well, I haven't done much like activisty stuff because I kind of live in an area where there's virtually no Green Party. It's difficult to really be an activist where I am. But my biggest failure was I ran for this thing called like NYP, like Member of Youth Parliament, and I ran a campaign, like the first campaign I ever ran, and it was awful. Like, just my strategy, my planning, and all that was awful. I learned a lot from that. So I think from that failure, I learned a lot, and I've learned how to campaign a lot better now, to be more organised and resourceful, etc.
Okay, thank you. Hannah, are you with us? I think Hannah is having some very serious technical issues at the moment. So if Hannah arrives, they will get the questions asked to them, and if not, then they will be allowed to provide written answers to any of the questions. Oh, Hannah? Hi, I think. Hannah, we can hear you. Okay, well, we'll come back to Hannah later and go on to Lyndon, your biggest failure as an activist.
Okay, so before I was a Green, I was a member of the Lib Dems for 7 years. So I'd say the biggest failure is sort of campaigning for things like tuition fees to be scrapped and stuff for a very long time, and then everything to be sort of thrown out when the coalition came along. And it's sort of, I think that's a big thing when you're campaigning, and then your issues, you can't get the things you want in terms of things like that, where it's an issue like tuition fees, where it's so important that education's free, and then you don't get it, and that's a difficult thing, I think.
Okay, thank you, and we will move on to Tarek.
My greatest failure as an activist is falling prey to activist burnout, because I won't say overexcited, but my enthusiasm, it drives me to put in more than, not I should, but just overlook small things along the way that make me neglect aspects of my health, etc. And yeah, I just crash and burn. But I've learned since then, and I know how to pace myself now.
Thank you, and we have Rosie Rule who has joined us. Rosie, do you want to just take a moment to introduce yourself? Maybe. Okay, guess not. Okay, and we will go to Paul about your biggest failure as an activist and what you learned from it.
Yeah, sure. Mine's I'm very similar to Tarek actually. In what he says, it's the burnout and the organisation of things. So because I've got my fingers in so many pies with sort of my equity stuff and my PCS stuff and all the various union stuff, and then the Green Party political stuff as well, it can sometimes be a little bit crazy to juggle everything together. But what I've learned is how it all meshes together and how you can actually find connections between everything and how you can get people to work together, and then all of a sudden you're juggling all these balls and you realize you're actually only juggling one big ball, if that makes sense. Sounds a bit ridiculous, but you see what I mean. And it's about bringing all these things together, and then you feel a lot more organized and a lot more structured and a lot more active in activism.
Okay, thank you. Lauren, then we will go to Hannah.
Okay, so I don't know exactly if people would take this as an answer to this question, but I'd say that my biggest failure has been language usage. So learning about ableist language, learning about language that oppresses people, basically, and how I've used that perhaps in campaigns before, talking to people about things and learning that this is really not right and it's not the way to move forward, and then picking up on people using it and basically learning about it has been how I've responded to my failure in that regard, and I hope now I'm a lot better at it.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Hannah, are you with us? Okay, Hannah, you're muted, so you're going to need to unmute your microphone. But when you have unmuted
Hi,
it...
yeah, I'm back now, sorry.
Hi, so the questions are...
It's about us.
The questions are biggest failure as an activist and what you learnt from it, and you missed the what's your experience of grassroots.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start with that one. So I already mentioned I used to work at Teesside University Students' Union. I was vice president of my students' union at the time. During that 2 years, we ran campaign after campaign. One particular one, quite a high profile one that I'll mention, was a large profile assessment feedback campaign. So what I did with that is we travelled to all the different areas in the university where students would be gathered, obviously highlighting the areas where like students wouldn't be on campus very often. So for example, paramedic students were on 2 hours a week, so we made sure we actually went to them individually. There was a lot of other groups like that, but mainly in the library and like high profile areas. Gathered over 2,000 comments from students, fed them directly into our assessment and feedback university board and academic board as well in the university. Managed to get faster turnarounds from the staff giving the students feedback, also a standardized feedback form that was delivered across the whole university, which was really helpful. So students got like better quality feedback, because you found that some departments would give maybe 1 or 2 lines, but some would give really good quality feedback. So that was quite a big change for the university in itself, which was quite exciting. Following that, like I said before, we ran a big free education campaign. My successors actually submitted an free education policy to our AGM, so we had to act fast and we had to kind of do something about it. Within 2 months, we'd mobilised 400 students to go to our AGM, and that was massive to see such a change in mobilisation and activism on campus.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have Rosie with us now.
Did you
Yes.
get that?
Hi, Rosie, if you could just introduce yourself, and then we'll do the last 2 questions, which was what's your experience with grassroots campaigning, and what's your biggest failure as an activist, and how have you learnt from it? Rosie, your microphone doesn't seem to be working. Okay, it's still not working. Oh no. I don't know. I don't think it's a problem on our end because it says you're unmuted.
Yeah, said.
Oh, Hannah, was that who just said that? Yeah, I got Hannah. I haven't.
Yeah.
I can't hear Rosie. Okay, Rosie, we'll give you a couple minutes to figure out. If you just mention on the chat next to the broadcast button when you've got it working.
Yeah. Did you get my answer? Did it come?
Yeah, we got yours, Hannah.
Okay, cool. And Okay, and the other one, I'll just make it quick as well, about my
Okay.
biggest failure as an activist. We actually held 2 years ago on campus, when we in our forming year of the Teesside University Green Party Society, we actually held an event with Natalie Bennett on campus. This was kind of tagged along to like the Newcastle event and Sunderland event, because we were only like recently formed. It was quite, there was only a few of us in the society. It wasn't very organised very well, and we reflected on that afterwards and actually held our hands up, and there was only about 50 people in attendance, which was quite, embarrassing really. For obviously Natalie Bennett was amazing. She came and did a speech, but only about 50 students came, which was a real shame. But we've reflected on that, and obviously in the future we'll make sure it's planned a lot more further in advance. We'll have a committee. Obviously there's a lot more people involved now, so I think it was just something that we need to learn from. And it was a bad event at the time, but looking back on it, to hold Natalie Bennett in our first year of forming was quite an achievement really. So something to learn from.
Okay, thank you. And we've had a question from Tom Pashby on Twitter, which is, would you describe yourself as an environmentalist? And this should be quite an easy question, so we'll give everyone 20 seconds for it. And we will go to Tarek first.
Of course I am. I mean, this is the reason why I've joined the party. And I started out as an environmentalist before I even got involved in politics. I've been an environmentalist since I was 6 or 7. I've loved the environment and caring about it and done whatever I could to preserve it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And Aaron?
Yeah, 100%. The first time I really became an environmentalist was when I visited India. I went to Delhi, which is like one of the world's most polluted cities. And the moment you walk out the airport, it hits you, the pollution. And I think from that moment I clicked on, something has to change. And like, you have to be the change. So that's the moment I became an environmentalist.
Thank you. And Lauren?
I can't say a specific moment that I became an environmentalist. I've always cared for the environment. As I said, I set up an eco council in my school. I've done numerous things online. The whole reason I'm in the Green Party is its name. It's the Green Party. Who would be in here if they weren't green?
Thank you. And Lyndon?
Yes, definitely. I've grown up in rural South Norfolk. I've done conservation work around here, and I've also done work experience with the Norfolk Wildlife Trust. So yeah, I'd definitely say I'm an environmentalist.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'd probably say I'm an enviro-socialist, really. So I'm a proper little watermelon over here. That's me.
And Hannah? Hannah?
Yeah.
Would you describe yourself as an environmentalist?
Yeah, I've got a slightly different answer actually. I joined the Green Party, not for the environmental reasons initially. I joined the Green Party because of the social justice, human rights reasons, and the free education policy. That's the reason why I joined the Greens initially. But after being a member of the Greens for 2 years, I would now 100% say I'm an environmentalist. They're the only party putting climate.
We have lost Hannah and Tarek. Oh dear. And Rosie, I think. Hannah? Hannah, do you just want to finish what you were saying?
Yeah, the internet's crap. Right, okay, so I actually joined the Green Party not for the environmental reasons. I joined initially because of the social justice, human rights reasons, and they're the only party actively, supporting free education. At the time, we were running that big campaign as well, so it was really important to us. After being a Green member for 2 years, I would now 100% say I'm an environmentalist. I've been involved with Friends of the Earth in Middlesbrough, running local campaigns in Middlesbrough as well, and the only party putting climate change on the agenda, which is so important.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. And I think that was everyone for that question. And we have a question from Kat on Twitter, which is, unfortunately, closely working with people can be difficult. How would you best try to overcome difficulties to work as a team?
Yeah.
And we will go to Lyndon first.
I'd like to think I can work pretty much anyone, really. I've worked with people from completely different political backgrounds from me. And I think as Young Greens, we've all got loads in common, whether we're young, really young members or sort of coming up on 30. We're all really got the same issues at heart. And I think that's the important thing. Obviously, personalities can clash, but it's just important to put them aside and just try and work together as best you can, really. That's what I'd say.
Okay, thank you. And Aaron.
I think if there is like a clash of personalities or something along them lines, the most important thing is to talk to both parties, all the parties involved, have an open discussion about what's going on. And then from that, look at what we have in common, not what we have, like what separates us. And then kind of move forward and put it behind us, because there's no point having a clash of personalities harm the greater good of the party.
Thank you. Hannah. We'll come back to Hannah in a second. If we go to Paul.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, communication is key. That is what stops any of sort of conflicts I find between personalities. And you can work that. Funnily enough, Hannah, as in Hannah, who's the current co-chair, she christened me as like the mediator when she first met me, because we kept like I'd sort of got to know everyone in the Young Greens, and I was just sort of like just chatting through, and whenever anyone was sort of in conflict.
Okay, one second. Someone is at my door. If we go to Tarek.
Okay.
Okay, so clashing personalities. I don't really clash. If somebody says something to me and I have a problem with it, then really affecting me, then I'll just ask them to explain themselves. Otherwise, if it's something that really doesn't bother me, as most things don't, I'll just let it slide, because at the end of the day, we're here to reach a goal, a common goal, and my opinion of you or your opinion of me shouldn't really matter. And we also have SPC to deal with all of these squabbles, etc. So I'm not really one to go about picking fights. I'm quite an agreeable person, and I've worked with many different organizations over the year, and so far, Young Greens have been the most, how can I say, cooperative to work with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Lauren?
Well, being on NEC for the past year, we have dealt with this quite a lot. Thanks, Molly. I'm pretty sure I'm quite confident in dealing with other members who perhaps cause upset. I've also been on a working group for a complaint, which is obviously shows that I can take on board criticism. I can see how things are working with relationships, and I'm as like Tarek, I'm quite agreeable with people generally.
Okay, thank you. Now we think we have Rosie, so just to give a quick rundown of lots of the questions, if you just answer as many of these as you can within the next kind of like couple minutes. So what's your experience with grassroots campaigns? What's your biggest failure as an activist and what you've learned from it? How do you cope with kind of working with difficult people when there can be like kind of like conflict? I can't remember any of the other ones. Would you describe yourself as an environmentalist? Yeah, if you can remember any of the other ones, I'll answer those as well. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I will try. Hi, I'm Rosie. I'm really bad apparently with the internet, even though I've sort of stood on a social media manifesto. But I've been a member of the Green Party for about a year, so I guess I'm quite new. But previous to that, I've been really involved in our UEA Young Greens group at university, particularly involved in the Fair Pay Campus campaign and 10 to 1 and living wage. And over the last 6 months, I've been working as a staff member for Norwich Green Party, so I've been particularly involved and really understand, I think, the dynamics of a local party and also the university side. Of campaign experience, I've been a campaigner at university, used to be really involved in People and Planet, and used to lead Sweatshop Free campaign and Fossil Free divestment campaign. I was on the management committee of People and Planet there, and that was a lot of sort of grassroots stunts, organising on the ground, getting people involved in mobilisation, which I feel is like extremely valuable as an activist. And then moved on from that to become a sabbatical officer at UEA, chiefly responsible for campaigns of democracy. And since then I've worked sort of on a national level for the People's Assembly Against Austerity in the National Office in London. Particularly, I think it'd be really exciting to get involved in the Young Greens in a similar way of mobilising local groups across the country, and I think I have a lot of experience in that. And currently I work as a digital campaigns manager for a national charity as well, international and national. So that's me and my involvement in campaigns. My bit is probably doing the, yeah, we did it, that was amazing, fantastic, hurrah for us, that the big stunt was it all, and then actually never really pushing and keeping up that momentum. Like you build for a big event and then you sort of celebrate, pat yourself on the back, and then realise that actually leaving sometimes big decisions with people, especially in the university. I remember with divestment feeling like, yeah, we did that amazing event, that was fantastic, and I think they're our friends and we're all going to be good and they'll divest. And then finding out actually people aren't your friends until they're doing what you want them to do, is my lesson learned. I would say I'm an environmentalist, but particularly, again, I also got involved in the Green Party over social justice issues, mostly the Fair Pay Campus campaign, living wage, and working in the local party in Norwich. It's always like a massive divide between sort of green versus social, and I think that's completely, it's about both, and I don't see them as separate at all. I've had lots of experience dealing with conflicts, working in cross-party organisations, from the People's Assembly to sabbatical officer and student union. I think the key thing is managing clear communications and respect and mutual expectations about the conversation, the parameters of who does what, and where we're going in the future. Thanks.
Okay, thank you to Rosie and to all of the NEC non-portfolio or treasurer candidates. That's all we have time for from you all, but thank you so much for being here. You guys can leave now if you want. Some more housekeeping. Again, the hashtag to ask questions is hashtag YG Hustings. The people we have coming up are Regional Senate, the Liberation Groups, the Editorial Board, and the Structures and Procedures Committee. So it's hashtag YG Hustings, or email me at spcchair@younggreens.org.uk. The place you can vote for all of these wonderful candidates. Oh, hi Kat, I can hear myself through your microphone. So the place that you can hear from all of these candidates, the place you can vote for all of these candidates is through the Young Greens kind of election system, which a link was emailed to everyone at midday today. If you haven't had your link, check the spam folder because it's going there for some people. You still haven't had it, if you email me again at spcchair@younggreens.org.uk, and I will kind of do it manually for you. But yeah, make sure you double check spam folder because a few people have said it ended up there. And also make sure you're checking the email address that you're registered with on the Green Party members area, because that's the data we have on you. Okay, we have Kat here. So I'm just going to let Kat introduce themselves.
Hi. So yeah, I'm Kat. I'm on Southwest Young Greens committee as the co-convener, and I sit on South West Green Party Committee as well as Membership Secretary. I'm really involved in Greens and love Young Greens so much. And I'm standing for Senate co-chair. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kat. And what will you do to make Senate more effective than it is currently?
Okay, so I think that the thing that really needs to be done for this is making sure that we have regular meetings. Over the past year, this hasn't always happened because of a series of circumstances. So making sure that regular meetings happen, that the away weekend goes ahead, and that minutes are available for people, just to make sure that we are a transparent body is really important, and to do everything we can to offer support for Senate members.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, if I can find it. What experience do you have in regional Young Greens groups?
Okay, so I've sat on the Senate for the past 6 months because I've been the co-convener of South West Young Greens for that long. And for over a year now, I've sat on South West Young Greens Committee. I sat originally as a rep for my local group and then went into the secretary position in a role share before taking up co-convener. And I also sit on the committee for my regional party. So for South West Green Party, I'm the membership secretary. So regional things is really my strong point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And on a practical level, what are your plans for Senate over the next year?
Okay, so on a practical level, the things that I really want to do for Senate is to produce a guide so that for people who are setting up regional groups, or for Wales and the regions to have something to help them with what they're doing, and to try and make sure that I can produce resources to support them in organising any events that they might have going on, and help them with online training resources and things like that. And then to also, yeah, I've said about that. Oh, and to support them with fundraising. I think this is really important. I know from my experience on South West Young Greens, fundraising a regional Young Greens group isn't always the easiest. So to try and make sure that there is fundraising support there, that we're sharing ideas, and to try and use my experience that I've got from having volunteered with Workers' Beer with the Young Greens to try and push for more spaces at festivals like Glastonbury and Latitude for Young Greens groups, and look at the possibility of maybe having regional groups having fundraising spaces there so that more money can go to regional groups to support what they're doing.
Okay, thank you, Kat. And this was a question for non-portfolio members that we didn't have time to get to, but as you will be on NEC, what do you think of the Black Lives Matter movement and how can we support it?
I think that this in itself is such an important movement and such an important thing that we need to be considering. I feel a little bit hypocritical talking about it because I speak with a lot of white privilege, but I think that it's something that we need to be very visibly active on, and it's something that we need to really push on because it's so important.
Okay, thank you. Let me just check everything for more questions, because I think that is all we have for you, which is good because it would be easy. Oh dear. But yeah, okay, thank you, Kat. I have sent the link for SPC to join the call.
Thanks, Molly.
So thank you very much for your time and for answering things.
Bye.
Bye. While we wait for SPC, I will tell my feminist joke that I've had saved since the beginning for lapses in people like this. Okay. Where does a meninist get his water? From a well, actually. So I can't hear people laughing, so it just feels like that joke really failed. But I'm sure everyone's just like cackling right now. Oh, have we got someone? No, we have two. Oh, Chris, I was just about to email you the link. Okay, we have Tommy Belitho, but other Tommy has just emailed me to let me know that he cannot make it. So I will give everyone a minute to introduce themselves, starting with Chris. Chris, we can't hear you.
Is that better?
Perfect, thank you.
Good. Sorry, I muted myself rather than unmuting myself. Sorry, yeah. So my name is Chris, and I've been a member of the Green Party for about 6 years. I joined in 2010. I've been involved in like multiple layers of the party for a number of years. I spent most of my time involved in the Norwich Green Party, where I worked on a lot of election campaigns and volunteered in the office 2.5 days a week. I was on the Young Greens NEC for a year, from 2013 to 14. I was on GPEX until about a month ago, and I've been involved with various bits of the party.
I can't hear you, but I think you said my name, so I'll just do my intro. So I'm Tom. I'm currently the Young Greens co-chair, though stepping down as of convention. I've been in that role since March, and before that I was Young Greens treasurer since October 2014. So I come into applying for this role with a lot of experience on NEC and how that functions, which puts me in a good position to be able to be on SBC, understanding the structures of how the Young Greens works, trying to improve them and holding NEC to account on behalf of the membership.
Okay. Yeah, I think my microphone's still not working.
Does this help? Can you hear me now? Okay, fab. Okay, so Chris first, why are you standing? Because this is very unforgiving role full of lots of paperwork and spreadsheets.
Yeah, so I'm standing because I think that internal democracy is really, really important, and while it's not the sexist of aspects of the party's work or the sexist committee to be involved in, I think that internal democracy and making sure that it's run effectively and fairly is really important. I've got a lot of experience working in democratic organisations in the past, so I spent 2 years as a sabbatical officer at UEA, primarily working on democratic reform within the Students' Union. I've been to about 9 party conferences now. I never miss a plenary. I've been to Young Greens Convention 4 times. And so I've got a lot of experience of being involved within the structures, and I think there's a lot of work, despite the fantastic work the previous committees have done to the AGM, the number of candidates that we get in elections, the diversity of candidates. So those are the kind of things.
Okay, thank you. And Tom?
Okay, so I'm running for SBC for very similar reasons, I suppose, and that's ultimately to try and help the democratic and general structures of the Young Greens. As I said in my intro, I feel like I'm prepared to do so because of my time on NEC, but also I think there's a lot of work that we can do building on the great work that's happened before. I'm weirdly quite a fan of the kind of the formal constitutional documents. I think they're really important, and I think there's a lot of work we can do. I've got a couple of motions going to convention that are really, I think, going to help, such as creating a Young Greens policy statement section. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but also dealing with the complaints and really changing how we do that and making that a lot better and our structures for that. And I'm keen to see that through and make sure that our processes for dealing with that and for dealing with everything are properly delivered. I think we could do better holding NEC to account, and I think it's great that we've got Tommy and Chris who are also running, and anyone else who might step forward to fill the other 2 vacancies to make a really vibrant and active SBC. And I really look forward to hopefully working with those 2 and anyone else that might join in delivering on that.
Okay, thank you. A lot of people have said that they feel that when they're not at a convention, they're kind of excluded from the democratic process. How would you target that? And Chris.
So I think that is like to an extent a fair point. Like that's our kind of main democratic event of the year, and obviously there's only so many people who can make it to convention, and there's obviously some barriers there to who can and can't attend.